Hey everybody, this is Coach Floyd. Sorry this is a little bit late, but let's talk about while loops and loop and a halves. You'll have over the weekend to get these completed because I got this uploaded late. My apologies. All right, so while loops. As we go through here, we skipped through Carol. This is the format for a while loop. So the difference between a for loop and a while loop. When I know exactly how many times I need to run my loop, I use a for loop. Okay? So if I'm told to do 100 times, I use a for loop. If I'm told to do 5 times, I use a for loop. So when I have the exact number. If I'm running something until something happens and I don't know, maybe it runs 1 time, maybe it runs 50, maybe it runs 1,000,000. That's when I use a while loop. Okay? So I want to run my while loop while an expression is true, and I want to continue it. So I'll start with the word while, put my Boolean expression in here, and then code that I want to go. Now, the one thing about a while loop is inside this code, whatever I have eventually has to make my Boolean expression false. Otherwise, you're going to crash your browser with an infinite loop. Okay? So here's a quick example. If I had I was 10, I want to run while I is greater than or equal to 0. I'm going to print that number and I'm going to count down. So I minus minus. And I'll show you a different way that we'll use this a little bit more. But because I minus minus, it continually counts 10 down, so it will eventually hit 0 or less than 0 and stop our loop. If we forgot to put the I minus minus, as in here where it's gone, then we have an infinite loop, which means, of course, we're crashing our browser and it's never going to stop. So we have to have a way out. So more times than not, we are going to, let me back this up real quick. So here's the example. All right, we run this and we can see that I started at 10. It went down 1 each time all the way to 0. Then when it went down to -1, I was no longer greater than or equal to 0, so it stopped and we were done. Now most of the time we are going to ask the user a question in our while loop. So I starts at 10, and what I can do is I can come in here and I can say, instead of just subtracting 1, I can say var num equals read int, and how many do you want to subtract? Okay, so now I'm going to ask a user how many they want to subtract. So now instead of going an I minus minus, I am doing an I minus equals the number. So I'm taking that 10, and if the user tells me 2, then I'm subtracting 2 from it, resetting the value of I to the new value, and then print line I. So now when this runs, how many do I want to subtract? I want to take 5 away. Well, now you can see right here that this is my total, my print line of I. So now I have 5. I have 5 left. If I take 3 more away, now I have 2. I'm resetting. So I'm still going down towards 0 to stop my while loop. If I hit 2, okay, well, I have 0, but remember this equal sign says it's still going to run when it's 0. If I take any more away, it stops because now I'm negative. So most of our while loops will ask a user or somehow get a new value in here to do something with. Now we're going to see this example over here in our inventory. So this is your first exercise. We're going to write a program that keeps track of simple inventory for a store. While there are still items left in inventory, so that right there tells us what our while condition should be. While there are still items left in inventory. Ask the user how many items they would like to buy. Then print out how many are left in inventory after the purchase. So basically we are going to continually repeat these 3 lines of code until we're done. So all we have to do is make these 3 things happen inside of a while loop, and then we'll be done. Okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write pseudocode in comments that kind of step by step walk you through what you should do. It'll be your job to translate that into JavaScript and make it work. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to continually repeat these 3 lines. So they have to go inside of our loop. So while, okay? And our while loop tells us up here, while there are still items left in inventory. Well, that sentence tells me that we are going to have items in inventory if our number of items is greater than 0. Okay? So, num items is greater than 0. Alright. So now here come the comments. Okay? And you'll have to get the rest of this. So I need to tell the user how many items we have. And that will be done on this line. Okay? Now notice the 20 is in different color because that is a variable. So I'm using my num items variable because it is going to continually change. So don't put a number 20 right here. Use your variable. Then I need to ask the user how many they want. That is going to take care of this line. Okay? Then I have to do the math to find out how many we have left. So I'm going to subtract the user amount from items, or from num items. Now I want num items to continually hold. I don't need to make a new variable. I want num items to continually update itself. So if it was 20 and they asked for 4, num items now needs to equal 16. Okay, don't make a new variable. It will mess it up. So then tell the user how many are left. If I go to 0 or less, okay, it tells me to say all out. Well, I am all out if my while loop finishes. If my while loop finishes, that means that I am completely out, and now I can tell the user all out. Okay? So make sure you know the difference between telling the user and asking. Okay? Asking is user input, telling is just printing. Now, there's more. Come down here, and we want to make sure that we catch the case where the user tries to buy more items than there are in inventory. So right here, after we ask the user how many they want, we need to run an if statement, because we have to figure out if they asked for too many. Okay? So if the user asked for more than we have, okay, notice my indentation because I'm inside an if now. If they ask for more than we have, tell them not enough. And you can see that sentence right here. Okay. However, otherwise, we want to do these 2 lines. We cannot subtract if they ask for more than we have. So if they ask for more, then we tell them there's not enough, we skip over our else, we come back to the top, we tell them how many we have again, just like this. They said 5, they asked for 6, we told them not enough, we go back to the top. This time they asked for 5, okay, so they didn't ask for more than we have, so we come into our else, we subtract the amount, so we update num items with the new total, then we tell them how many are left. If it's 0, then we come up here, we are not greater than 0, so then it jumps out of our while loop and we tell the user all out. That is, oh, there's a typo right there, many. All right, so this is what you'll want to do. Here's what I do. Okay, if I were you, I would open up my I would open up my exercise, I would type exactly what I typed out. And then I would come here and I would say, okay, I'm going to translate line 7 and I'm going to write the JavaScript on line 8. So I'm looking at this piece of code and I'm going to say, to tell the user how many items we have, I need a print line, if I can type. And then I'm looking over here, we have etc. Okay, then I would come down here and I'm going to say, okay, now I'm going to ask the user how many they want. Now by doing this, it kind of helps your thinking, gets you get more into that step-by-step motion. Okay, so there is the pseudocode for that. Let's move to Fibonacci. Fibonacci is a number sequence that basically says we start with 2 1s and we add those together to get the third number. Then we add the second and third number together to get the fourth number. The third and fourth number together to get the fifth number, and so on. So there's a hint. It's a good idea to declare 3 variables: first num, second num, third num. So I'm going to do that. However, I'm lazy, so I'm going to say var A, var B, var C. Okay, there are my 3. Now it tells me that I have to start first number with 1, second number with 1. So A equals 1, B equals 1, and then it tells me that my next number is going to come from, let's see, so to get the third number, we take 1 plus 1. Alright, so 1 plus 1, remember we want to use variables, so that is going to equal A plus B. Now, I'm going to start our while loop. We want to run this while our numbers are less than 1,000. But we have to think to ourselves, what am I comparing to 1,000? The only variable that is increasing the most and is going to count up to max is C. Okay? So we want to run this while C is less than max. Now once we're in here, we have to print, C. Okay, so C is going to give us that running number that we're looking for over here. It's going to keep updating and give us that number. But to get, so we've got A plus B, so C is right here. Well, to get 3, I've got to add 1 and 2. So what I'm going to do is I need A to take the value from B, I need B to take the value from C, and I need C to update itself using A and B. Okay, so I'm doing this one for you. Hopefully you'll follow along. So A takes B, B takes C, and C updates to A plus B. Okay, so that right there is all it is. So now when I run this, I have that. Now I'm missing my 2 leading ones, so I'll come up here, print line A and print line B. So I print my 2 ones, then I start my loop, and it goes up and it continues until the next number would be more than 1,000, so of course it stops. Alright, so there's Fibonacci. Kind of gave that one to you. You're welcome. Alright, here we go. Concentric circles. Let's read about this one. Write a program that starts by drawing the largest circle that can fully fit on the canvas and continues drawing circles as long as the radius is greater than 0. So there's our while condition, as long as the radius is greater than 0. Each time a circle is drawn, the radius should decrease by 20. The circle color should alternate between red and black. Use a variable to control the radii values. Another variable can be used to control the color of each circle. And it's actually got a setup up here. Created us a circle, created us a counter. A counter is just a variable that we can use to keep up with something. It is not anything really special. It's just something we use to keep count. Radius starts at 200. So first thing is I need to make my circles inside of a loop. So while radius is more than 0, so greater than 0, then I want to create a circle of size radius. Okay, I'm using this variable. Okay, using this variable. If you don't remember how to create a circle, slide over here to your docs, click on circle, and here is a line of code that shows you how to make a circle. Then I need to set the position of the circle to the center of the screen. Okay, you should know how to do that using get width, get height. Actually kind of hints at it down here. I need to set the color of the circle, and we'll do a little bit more with the color here in just a second, and add the circle. Okay, so now that is going to continue to create circles. Now the problem is we do not have a way to stop our loop yet. So when we look back over here at assignment, we have to follow this. Each time a circle is drawn, we should decrease our radius by 20. So right here, inside my loop, I need to decrease the radius by 20. Right there, that will draw our circles and it will stop our loop. If we do not put that line of code in there correctly, then we will have an infinite loop and you will crash your browser. The last thing it says is to have a variable to add to control the color of each circle. The color of the circle is going to be based on the number of the circle. So we need to count how many circles we have. So that's why we have our count variable, and I'm just going to increase it by 1 because we have just drawn one circle each time our while loop runs. Okay? Now, that right there will put all the circles on the screen, decreasing sizes. The problem is we got to set the color. So I need to know if the number of the circle is even or odd. Even numbered circles are going to be red. Odd numbered circles are going to be black. So in order to use this, I use an if-else statement. Okay, so if the count, okay, our count variable, right there, our count variable is even. Remember, we saw this in our if statements back on lesson 4. We saw a way to figure out if a number is even. We are using that modulus. You have to use the modulus by 2. If that does not have a remainder, so that equals 0, then it's even. So look back there into the example. It is the even and odd right here. This example right here will show you. So if the count is even, tab, set the color to red. Else, set the color to black. Okay. That right there is the pseudocode to finish this exercise. So what you would need to do is take those comments right there, translate each one of those lines into JavaScript, and you will have your concentric circles, and they will look like this. Okay, looks like a bullseye right there. All right, so those are those, and let's look at the loop and a half. All right, so a loop and a half is a little bit different. Sorry, not too far. So a loop and a half is a while loop with only the word true as our expression. We want an infinite loop on a loop and a half because we want to get inside the loop at all times. We always want to get inside of it. Then we will test our way out of it. Okay? So don't put anything in. If you're using an infinite loop or a loop and a half, excuse me, you only put the word true. Now, if you just ran this right now, it's an infinite loop and it's going to break your, going to crash your browser. So we have to put a break statement somewhere in the body. So we use an if condition and a break. When it sees break, it immediately stops your loop and moves on. So the way we break is we look for a sentinel. Now a sentinel is just a variable. Okay, it's kind of the term for a variable that has the value you're looking for. Okay, so if it's a password, my sentinel is the correct password and I'm asking a user to enter a password. Once they give it to me, then I break. If it's looking for a specific number, if they're guessing a number, then that number is my sentinel. When they guess the number, then I break. So that's all it is. So here's an example of a sentinel and a loop and a half. So my sentinel is -1. I have a sum. While true gets me in here to ask the user to enter a number. What they're going to do is they're going to give me whatever number they want to. I immediately check to see if they gave me the sentinel. If the user gave me a -1, I break and I'm done. If they give me anything other than a -1, then I come down here, I add it into my sum, and I ask them for the next number. If at any time they give me a -1, I break, I jump out of my loop, and I continue with any other code that I have in my program. Okay? So, again, this is the format right here. While true. It has to have an if statement right after I ask the user. Okay? I don't always ask the user, but 99% of the time, I'm going to ask the user. Okay? So let's look at this in action. So we have our sentinel up here. We have our sum. While true. Now I get a lot of people, I mean, you could put while 5 is greater than 4. That is always going to be true, but there's no reason to. While sum equal, I don't want to do this, okay? I just want to put true. Then I can come down here. I can ask the user, get a number from them, see if it's my sentinel. If it is, I break and I can tell them, hey, you're out. All right? The problem with this is if I run it and I do a -1, it didn't tell them you're out. That is because I broke out of my loop before I did my print line. If I move that to here and I do -1, it jumps in, it says you're out, then it breaks. Okay? My sum was 0 because I never added anything into it. All right, so I can add that in here, or I could take it from there and I could put it down here. Let's see, 3, 7, -1. Okay, the total was 10 because it added 3 and 7. Because of the -1 gets me out, I don't want to add that in. Okay, so I don't want that to subtract. That's why I do my if statement immediately after my input. Okay, so loop and a halves are mainly for getting some type of value, either a word or a number or something, from the user or a randomizer, checking to see if it's what I'm looking for. If it is, I break. Otherwise, I come and do whatever it is that it wants me to do. So let's pseudocode the next assignments. Write a program that rolls 2 dice until the computer gets snake eyes. Snake eyes is 2 ones. You should use a loop and a half to do this. Each round you should roll 2 dice. Hint, use the randomizer. Print out their values. If the values on both dice are 1, that's called snake eyes, and you should break out of the loop. You should also use a variable to keep track of how many rolls it takes to get snake eyes. Alright, so I know it just told me to keep track of how many rolls, so I need a counter. I create my counter before my loop. So var count equals 0. Now it's 0 because I haven't counted anything yet. Okay. Now I'm going to create my loop and a half. That's my while true. Okay, I'm indent because I'm inside of my while loop now. I am going to create a variable to get a random number between 1 and 6. If you don't remember how to get a random number, click over here on your docs and click randomizer. It will show you how to get a random number. I am going to create another var to get a random number between 1 and 6. Now, it can be a 1 and 6 also. Make sure that these are named two different things. Okay? Now, as soon as I get my two variables, I need to run my if statement. Check if they are snake eyes. There's several ways that I can check to see if they're snake eyes. If the first one equals 1 and the second equals 1, if they have a total of, there's several different ways you can do that. But I need to know if I rolled snake eyes. If I did, then tab over. I need to, wait, one thing I got to do first. Sorry. Because I rolled, I need to increase my count by 1. Got to do that first. So if I get snake eyes, then I tell the user how many times I rolled and break. One last thing, I need to, got ahead of myself, print the rolls. So I get 2 rolls, I increase my count, I print the roll just right here. If they're snake eyes, so you can see we got snake eyes here, I tell them how many rolls it took, and then I break. Alright, so make sure that you have your all your brackets and everything are in the right position and stuff like that. Alright, so that is snake eyes. Last one is going to be the very same thing, except I'm using a password. Write a program that uses a loop and a half to prompt a user for a password. You should keep prompting until they get it. If they get it, break out of the loop. Okay, so create loop and a half. Tab because I'm inside of my loop now. Ask user for password. Make sure you use the correct read because you're getting a string. Check if they are right. If they are, say you got it and break. Else, say sorry, try again. And that's really all it is. You tell them to enter the password. If they don't get it, it hops down here. You say sorry, try again. If they do get it, then you say you got it and you break. So that is really all it is. This is what they're trying to do. So you're comparing what they gave you to the secret, and that is it. So I hope all of this pseudocode helps you. If you get stuck at any time, please contact me. Again, you'll have the weekend because I posted this late. You'll have the whole weekend until Monday to continue this. So don't stress on trying to get it all done today and tomorrow. Please let me know if you need any help. Thanks.